For the longest time, I didn't have a favorite band or a particular kind of music I liked. I liked blues music and 80s music, but I didn't exclusively listen to it. Really, I would just listen to anything as long as it had good rhythm and good vocals. 9 times out of 10, the actual lyrics are complete shit, but to me that didn't matter. However, over the summer, I started listening to heavy metal, and I enjoyed it. Despite enjoying bands like Black Sabbath, Danzig, Metallica, etc., there was one band that soon became my favorite band of all time. Pink Floyd. Founded in 1965 by Syd Barrett, Roger Waters, Nick Mason, and Richard Reich, unless you're joined by David Gilmour. Pink Floyd are one of the most successful bands in music history, with some of their albums reaching over 45 million copies sold. Take a wild guess which one. With that said, they have created a total of 15 main albums, and not all of them are made equal. So in this video, I'm going to rank all 15 of them, from E to S tier. I've avoided using F because none of their albums deserve to go into F tier. None of them are that bad. Some of them are bad, but not F tier worthy. Therefore, it's exclusion from the list. Without further ado, let's go. The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is the first album released by Pink Floyd, and it's definitely the most inspired by the Beatles, with its psychedelic nature. In fact, on one of the days of the recording process, Pink Floyd were invited to watch the Beatles record a song. That's pretty cool. Anyways, the album is very good. Astronomy de Mine is a killer opening track, and Lucifer Sam and Matilda Mother are both very good. I didn't really enjoy Flaming that much, but it isn't bad. Pow R Tuck H, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's just bizarre, but in a good way. And the first track they made where their experimental side really set in. Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk isn't a good song either. I mean, it's Roger Waters, but before he became good. Side 2 kicks ass with Interstellar Overdrive and The Gnome, but Chapter 24 isn't that great as well. I really have to preface this by saying there aren't any bad songs in this album. Most of them are just plain good, while others are just okay. The final 2 songs, The Scarecrow and Bike, are really good. Bike in particular is probably my favorite song in the album, mostly because of how weird it is. I guess another song I would compare it to is A Day in the Life by the Beatles, which I know everyone considers that the best Beatles song, but the structure is very similar to Bike, in that it has a pretty normal verse and then it just goes into like a weird, psychedelic edge, and then by the end it's just complete randomness, more of a sound collage. We will soon later see how this weirdness can be turned against itself. I would put this album into B tier. A Saucer Full of Secrets. This album is the first with David Gilmour, but you can still tell the psychedelic edge from Barrett is still here, as he was still part of the band when this album was being made. This album is less like an album from a band and more like a collection of bits from the individual band members. The first 3 songs, Let There Be More Light, Remember a Day, and Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, aren't great songs, but they are good. Corporal Clegg. Here we go. In my opinion, this is the first Pink Floyd song I would consider plain bad. It was also the first song by Pink Floyd, more specifically Roger Waters, that focuses on war, which would later be dragged into the ground by the final cut. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The song's lyrics are fine, but it is absolutely killed by that god-awful kazoo in the middle. It sounds terrible. The second side also starts pretty bad. I don't like the title song, and I genuinely can't remember a thing from Seesaw. Thankfully, the final song, Jug Band Blues, sticks the landing. It's the final Pink Floyd song from Barrett, and therefore it has a bit of somber subtext, especially in the opening line. In terms of this album, I saw a meme about Pink Floyd that was basically like, a saucer full of secrets fans trying to decide the best song. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I can't for the life of me pick the best song on this infernal thing. I guess if I really had to, I guess Set the Controls, but that'll probably change before I finish writing the script. I put this album in D tier. More. Now we arrive at Pink Floyd's first shitty album. Okay, I jest. It's not that bad. The opening 3 tracks, Cirrus Minor, The Nile Song, and Crying Song, are pretty good. Particularly Nile. Also great songs, by the way. Crying Song is absolutely fantastic. It has a bit of a heavier sound to it, the Nile Song, than other songs at the time. Like, very definitely going towards the heavy metal side of things as this was starting to develop. Up the Kuiper is pretty crap, but green as a color and Cymbeline are also good. Although it turns to bad again with Party Sequence. However, none of these songs are outright terrible. Anyway, side 2. This is where the real crap begins. Main theme is fine, but Ibiza bar is forgettable. More blues, like main theme, is fine, but it goes off the deep end again with the final 3 songs. Quicksilver, track number 11, is okay. Dramatic theme, track number 13, is forgettable fluff. But then we get to a Spanish theme, track number 12. Okay, let me just start this off by saying this. One of my upcoming videos is a ranking of the worst song in every Pink Floyd album. I have a bone to pick with that song. Stay tuned for that bashing. But to summarize quickly in 2 words, you're finished. Anyways, this album isn't terrible, as I said. Just forgettable and not worth checking out in its entirety. There are some good songs in here, but that's really it. You're really just stuck with like a soundtrack album at that. This is a soundtrack for a movie that no one knows about. So it's been obviously very forgotten. D tier, below Saucerful. Umaguma.
What the fuck is this?
Oh my god. Umaguma is complete and utter garbage. I could not stand this atrocious piece of crap that mistakes itself for music. The entire album takes the A Saucer Full of Secrets problem of it feeling like it wasn't made by the group as one and amplifies it to 5,000. Not only that, but it's split into 2. This is a double album, motherfuckers, and they milk it for all it's worth. The first 2 sides are live tracks, some of which were already on their albums. Of these live tracks, I only liked Astronomy Domain, although it was extended to a length that wasn't needed, like 8 minutes, really. The other 3 aren't very good. They butchered the hell out of set of controls. I already don't like Saucerful the song, and not much changes here, and I hated Careful with the Axe Eugene. Apparently that's one of their best songs from the Barrett years, apparently, I don't know. However, the first 2 sides are okay. The latter 2, on the other hand, are just... Oh, holy crap, dude, Jesus Christ. I could not stand this. Sisyphus is genuinely one of the worst compositions of music I have ever heard in my entire life. The Narrowway has one good part, but the rest of it is ass. And don't even get me started on the Grand Vizier's Garden Party. It is so bad. Like, the only 2 tracks I like were Grantchester Meadows, which are my favorite on the album because of how peaceful it is, and how it's the only time where the experimental nature actually works in its favor, and several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grew in the pict, which is so bizarre and dumb, it wraps around to being good again. That's 2 songs, including Astronomy Domine. That's 3. 3 songs I liked in this entire album, which goes on for over 1 hour. If this isn't a shoo-in for the bottom spot on this list, I don't know what is. This is a shoo-in for E tier. If there were no good songs, I would throw it straight in F. But because I liked a third of the album, it barely makes the cut. There are no other albums on this list, or I'll probably ever hear, that are going to be able to beat this travesty. This is, so far, the worst album I have ever listened to. And I'll be very surprised if anything is worse than this. Atom Heart Mother. Here we go. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Atom Heart Mother is, in my opinion, their first truly great album. The title track is their longest, clocking in at 23 minutes and 44 seconds. It's an epic piece of progressive rock that is great, that middle part aside. However, it isn't the only track on the album, as the title track overshadows the other songs a tiny bit, as we'll see in some of the later albums. If is my second favourite song on the album, and Summer 68 and Fat Old Son are pretty good as well. This album's seeming pretty great so far. I wonder what the last... Oh my god! Like, what the hell happened here? I hate Alan's psychedelic breakfast. The instrumental parts are fine, but it's the part of the titular Alan having his breakfast, and it's disgusting. I'm fine with watching people eat, unless you're doing this, in which case get away from me. However, actually hearing someone eat right up against my ear is disgusting, and listening to the song with headphones didn't exactly help. Because of this, I give this album an A tier. It's the best one so far, but that final track killed the momentum for me. Metal. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at peak. Metal is a genuine masterpiece, and it's not because of echoes. Well, not entirely. One of these days is a great opener, being a constant build-up with a satisfying conclusion. A Pillow of Winds and Fearless are incredibly calming, as is Saint-Tropez, and Seamus is not that bad, guys, come on. However, this album is famous for one song, and one song only. Echoes. In my Pink Floyd chronology, this was the song that made me realize, oh yeah, I'm about to have the biggest orgasms in music. The entire track is just a masterpiece, from beginning to end. Even the wail part in the middle is great, and even kind of calming. I frequently do homework and study while playing this song, because it just gives me the determination to do stuff. Particularly that build-up starting at 14 minutes and 30 seconds, and that part at 18 minutes and 13 seconds is one of the best pieces of music of all time, in my opinion. This is, without a doubt, my favorite Pink Floyd song. And in terms of metal, this goes straight to S tier. Obscured by Clouds. On some Pink Floyd album rankings, I've seen people ignore more, because it's the soundtrack album. Yet they include this, despite it also being a soundtrack album. Well, the joke's on them. This album is included on the list of Pink Floyd albums on Wikipedia, so checkmate. In my opinion, this is easily the most underrated album from Pink Floyd. It isn't perfect, and when I say that, I'm exclusively talking about the ending song, but we'll get to that. The first two tracks, the title track of When You're In, are a great start. Burning Bridges is peaceful, The Gold Itinda is great, hard rock, and What's the Deal is a classic. However, then we get to Mudmen, which is... holy shit. This song is amazing. It features one of the best Gilmour solos ever. Every time I listen to the song, I travel to another dimension. Childhood's End and Free 4 are great, and Stay is very good. Anyways, didn't I say there was a bad song in this? Oh yeah, absolutely Curtains. This song is a disappointing conclusion to an otherwise fantastic album. It starts off fine, but then dissolves in chaos with a chant from a tribe, which is murder on the ears, especially since it lasts for half of the fucking song. I put this album in A tier because, like Adam Hart Mother, it's good up until the very end. The Dark Side of the Moon. Alright, now we're getting to the big ones. The four albums that are considered not only some of Pink Floyd's best, but some of the best albums in music history. This album is what jump-started Pink Floyd into the mainstream. The Dark Side of the Moon is frequently considered one of the greatest albums in the history of music, and you would have to be insane to rank this below anything but first. Dark Side of the Moon is number 3 for me. Now, before you murder me, hear me out. Dark Side of the Moon is a fantastic album. Every song on it is a masterpiece, and Speak to Me exists. Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The first track of the album, Speak to Me, it's a good preview onto the stuff we'll be seeing later, but on its own, it's forgettable. I've seen people combine this and Breathe together, but they're considered separate tracks by Pink Floyd specifically, as you can see on both Wikipedia and if you buy the albums themselves, so I trust them. I trust the band that actually made the songs. After Speak to Me, every song is a banger. Breathe in the Air is a calming but also thought-provoking song. On the Run is Fast is an electric. Time is a fucking masterpiece crafted by the gods themselves. That fucking guitar solo. The Great Gig in the Sky transports me to another dimension. Money is a cool and funky song. Us and Them is grim but jazzy. Any Color You Like is psychedelic and also a combination of jazz and funk. It's called Junk. Finally, the double wombo combo of Brain Damage and Eclipse. I've seen people also combine these two together, and although they are separate songs, they only work with each other, and you can only listen to them with each other. You can listen to Speak to Me and Breathe to the other, but you can't do the same for Brain Damage and Eclipse. Brain Damage features one of the coolest album title drops I've ever seen, and Eclipse is the perfect way to cap off this masterpiece. So, why don't I consider this album to be the best Pink Floyd has ever done? Well, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of how the songs lead into each other. If you're listening to the songs on their own, with the obvious exceptions of The Great Gig in the Sky and Eclipse, they kind of just end abruptly, leading to a bit of musical annoyance, or whiplash. I know I'm probably going to get lynched for saying this, but I need to speak my mind. This album goes into S tier, above metal. An absolute masterpiece, but not perfect. Want to know what is also an absolute masterpiece, but is perfect? Wish You Were Here. Oh my god. This album. This is not only my favorite Pink Floyd album, but maybe my personal favorite music album ever. It's only 5 songs long, but it delivers on all fronts in that regard. The themes about loneliness, longing, the corrupt music industry, and the future are compelling and dynamic, and so are the songs themselves. The album starts and ends with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, a 9-part epic that was also a dedication to Syd Barrett. Part 5 then transitions into Welcome to the Machine. That problem I had with The Dark Side of the Moon, where the kind of song ended abruptly, is fixed in Wish You Were Here, as one song properly ends before the next one begins, having an intro at the end into the next song, but also giving enough time for it to actually space out. Welcome to the Machine is the weakest song on the album, and it's still my 13th favourite Pink Floyd song, so that's how you know this album is peak. The acoustic guitars and Gilmour's vocals are amazing, and the dramatic overtones in the lyrics are compelling. The electronic stuff is done by Rice is also awesome. Then Have a Cigar is the complete opposite of every other song on this album. It's a lot more bluesy and funky than the other songs, and the lyrics are a lot more scathing. It also features vocals by Roy Harper, who is absolutely fantastic. The original vocals were done by Roger Waters, and they sound angelic. Definitely. I would play you a clip from said song, but I don't want Susan to come back from the grave and shove a copyright takedown problem up my ass, so I'll put the link in the description. Forget I ever said that sentence. Anyway, if Echoes is my favourite song from Pink Floyd, then the title song of Wish You Were Here is a close second. It's just perfect and just so depressing to listen to. The album caps off with the last 4 parts of Shine On, including the depressing part 9, which according to Wikipedia is like the funeral of Syd Barrett. Everything on this album is fantastic in one way or another. This album goes to the top of S tier, and will remain there forever as my favourite album from this amazing band. Animals. Okay, I'm gonna love with you guys. This album is not underrated. I'm so sick of people saying that's the most underrated Pink Floyd album, because it's not. This album is just as praised as much as Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and The Wall, which we'll get to. But for a lot of people, they just can't get into it. This is because of one simple fact: the length. I'm not talking about the album itself. It's only 41 minutes, which is relatively short by prog rock standards at the time. I'm talking about the big 3 songs: Dogs, Pigs, 3 different ones, and Sheep. These 3 songs are all over 10 minutes each, with Dogs reaching 17 minutes. However, this is one of the many reasons why I absolutely fucking love this album. Like Wish You Were Here, Animals also starts and ends with the same song, Pigs on the Wing. I'll talk more about those 2 in my next Pink Floyd video. For now, let me talk about the other 3 songs on this album. Holy shit, this is some of the greatest music I've ever heard in my entire life. It's making me even trip over my own words. Dogs is my 3rd favourite Pink Floyd song, and it delivers on all fronts and is never boring for the entire 17 minutes. Pigs is fucking amazing. Like, that guitar solo in the end is powerful. Sheep is a lot of fun, especially that ending bit. This is by far the most aggressive album from Pink Floyd. Their heaviest album, even though it's not heavy metal in the slightest. It's hard rock. There's a difference. Waters' lyrics deal with the socio-economic and political issues in Britain in the 1970s, taking inspiration from Animal Farm as well. The lyrics are ruthless, calling out everyone for their own issues. When I first listened to Pigs, I thought the 3rd pig was Gerald Ford, because Waters sings "Hey You White House." Of course, I didn't realize later that also says marry you nearly a treat later, so congrats on my stupidity, I guess. However, with all my praise, I do have a few tiny issues. Obviously, pigs on the wing, but as I said, I'll get to that another time. Now, my other issue is that for dogs, pigs, and sheep, the musical structure of the songs kind of sound the same in a way. It starts with a verse and chorus, maybe two, then a long instrumental before it leads back into the main rhythm of the song, before a final verse and chorus, and then the hardest guitar solo of all time. With that said, dogs is probably the least like this structure, but pigs and sheep are virtually identical structure-wise. Like aside from the rhythm, themes, use of guitar and instruments, and virtually everything else, these songs are exactly the same. What I'm getting at here is that Animals goes into S tier. It practically skimmed first place, but just fell short due to the Pigs on the Wing and the similar strong song structure. However, it's still an undeniable masterpiece, and one of the best concept albums of all time. And then there's The Wall. The Wall. This is easily the most loved or hated album from Pink Floyd. I mean, I guess you could also say that for Animals, but I more so lean toward The Wall. People who listen to Pink Floyd either adore this album and label it as one of the greatest concept albums, if not the greatest concept album of all time, or they despise it because it's a pretentious piece of slop that goes on for too long. What do I think? I'm very much in the love it category, but there are indeed issues. First things first, the song conveys the story incredibly well. Pink is a compelling protagonist, and his story is incredibly depressing. The themes of war, child abuse, neglect, drug usage, the dangers of mental isolation and disassociation, and the struggles of working in the rock industry are compelling and well done. But enough about that boring shit like compelling themes and a good story. That's stuff for babies. How are the songs? Well, for one, why the fuck are there 26 songs on this album? It makes some sense, particularly the third section. Like how... Wait, what am I saying? It makes some sections, particularly the third section, feel incredibly long. Another problem with some of the songs is a problem with the wider concept album world in general. What makes a perfect concept album, in my opinion, is being able to listen to the songs without the context of the story. Some of the songs on The Wall are like this. Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Goodbye Blue Sky, Young Lust, Comfortably Numb, which is a fucking masterpiece of music, Waiting for the Worms, etc. But at the same time, songs like Mother, Empty Spaces, Don't Leave Me Now, Nobody Home, The Trial, etc. are more focused on story rather than being standalone. They aren't bad songs by any means. They just can't be listened to on their own with the greater context. You know? Also, what is the worst song from this 26-song epic? I bet it's the 30-second song that barely counts as a song to Leave Me Now. Yeah, third curveball on that one, didn't I? The first 3 minutes of the song begin with an screechy, ear-bleeding display of Roger Waters' vocals and makes it unbearable to listen to. Give Stop some credit. At least the vocals in that are fine and it's over quickly. This fucking thing lasts 4 minutes, with 3 of those minutes being terrible. At least the last minute of the song has some great guitar playing, but that's the only thing that saves the song from being wholly bad. Overall, this is still a fantastic rock opera and deserves just as much credit as Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and Animals. But it isn't better than any of them, and it's the weakest of the big four in my eyes. Low S tier. The Final Cut. This is the most Roger-centric album Pink Floyd ever made, as Rick Wright had left at this point, and Roger wrote everything and sung everything, with the exception of one song. The album's single theme about war is repetitive and tedious. There are some good sub-themes in these songs, but all of them follow the same basic idea. War is bad and Margaret Thatcher sucks. I mean, I don't know much about her to know if Roger's right or not, but let's try and avoid politics. This is a very politics-free channel sometimes. I thought after The Wall, Waters would have expressed all he needed to express about how much he hates the British government for letting his father die in World War II. However, as soon as the Falklands War hit in 1982, Waters took a bunch of unused songs from The Wall, wrote a bunch of new songs, and released this album. This is the least Pink Floyd out of all their albums. The Post-War Dream is fine, but has that screech as hell ending, and Your Possible Past is the same, but has a great guitar solo in the middle. One of the few, When the Tigers Broke Free, and The Hero's Return are boring, repetitive, and not memorable in the slightest. The Gunner's Dream Paranoid Eyes are good, at least, and are a good end to side one. Then we get to the weakest song on the album, Get your filthy hands off my desert. What do you want me to say? It's 1 minute and 7 seconds of literally nothing. I mean, there are lyrics, but they're forgettable. There is a rhythm, but it's also forgettable. This song is one of the most forgettable in all of Pink Floyd's catalogue. The Fletcher Memorial Home is actually pretty good, as is Southampton Dock. But the final 3 songs are where it's at. The title song, Not Now John, and Two Suns in the Sunset. The title song is the best song on the album, featuring the best lyrics, music, and vocals from Waters. Not Now John is the second best, mostly because it has the most upbeat. It's the most upbeat in the whole album, and it literally starts with the F word and has David Gilmour on vocals. Two Suns in the Sunset is a great closer, literally ending with Nuclear Holocaust. The thing about this album is that the lyrics have meaning, and they do make sense. The issue is that they're all cramped together into one album, and they start to pile on top of each other. This isn't a bad album by any means, but it's decently well made. This goes into C tier. A Momentary Lapse of Reason. This is the first Gilmour-led album, and now that we're here, I'll address a common issue with Pink Floyd fans. You see, a lot of fans are split between who they prefer, the concept-led Roger Waters era, or the more regular rock David Gilmour era. Personally, I'm a fan of both. Roger Waters has some of the best lyrics in all of music, while David, Richard, and Nick all have the instrumental and vocal sauce. They worked well together, which is why, lyrically, A Momentary Lapse of Reason is one of Pink Floyd's weakest, but vocally and rhythmically, it's one of their best and most underrated. The opening song, Signs of Life, is an angelic ambient piece that starts off the album well. Learn to Fly, The Dogs of War, and One Slip are all good songs, but On the Turning Away is great. That's how I pronounce it. Then, on side 2, is my favourite song from the album, Yet Another Movie. The way David Gilmour sings the lyrics and plays the guitar in this one is just transcendent. So it only makes sense to follow up that with the worst song on the album, Round and Around, which is just dull, flat, and a pointless continuation. Just put the two in the same, it's not that difficult. A New Machine Part 1 is also not very good, but A New Machine Part 2 is fine. I like the voice Gilmour puts on, okay? It's cool, stop judging me. The in-between song, Terminal Frost, is a great instrumental piece, and Sorrow is a great way to tie it all together. Overall, this album is incredibly strong and doesn't have any bad songs, just 2 I didn't like very much. I put this album above Atom Heart Mother and below Obscured by Clouds in A tier. I know some of you might consider that sacrilege, but have you considered shutting up? The Division Bell. The second last album on this list is The Division Bell, the second of the Gilmour-led era. When I first listened to it, I thought it was very good. It would have been above The Final Cut, but below Atom Heart Mother. However, I've re-listened to it for this ranking, and it definitely improved for me. Cluster 1, like Signs of Life, is a peaceful, ambient opener. What Do You Want From Me is a fun blues type song, and Pulls Apart is there, I guess. But then we get to Marooned. Holy fucking shit. This is a phenomenal song. This is my favorite instrumental piece from them. It's utterly amazing in every conceivable way. This has some of the best guitar playing from Gilmour and gets across so much, all without any lyrics. Every time I listen to this masterpiece of a song, especially with headphones, I feel like I transcend into a different realm. Like that one meme picture of SpongeBob. A Great Day for Freedom is pretty good. Where the Inside Out has Gilmour sounding like Roger Waters, which is great. And Take It Back, Coming Back to Life, and Keep Talking are all good. The penultimate song, Lost for Words, is pretty great, and also features a use of the F word at the end, which is pretty epic. Of course, you can't talk about The Division Bell without mentioning High Hopes, the final song on the album, and the best post-Roger Waters leaving song they ever did. It is 8 minutes of pure artistry, but lyrically, vocally, and rhythmically. Overall, this album isn't as strong as some others, but individually, some of these songs are bangers. So I'll put it in A tier, above A Momentary Lapse of Reason, but below Obscured by Clouds. The Endless River. And finally, And last, but certainly not least, is The Endless River, named after a lyric from High Hopes. Honestly, in my opinion, this album gets too much flack. I like ambience music, and a lot of the tracks on this 18-track epic are very good. The issue is that a lot of them don't have a lot of substance. Louder Than Words is the only one that has lyrics, and it's automatically the best one by default. I'm not going to give my opinions on each individual track, because who honestly cares? There are all instrumental songs on this thing, and they're all good. No, okay, not all of them. There are a lot of good ones, but what is there to say? How many variations of "this song is good" can I say about a single album? Like, there's nothing different I can say about each individual one. Overall, I think it's both very good and very overhated, but it needed more banger songs to make it stand out more. I probably wouldn't go back to it a second time. I'll put it in B tier, above the Final Cut but below Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And this is my final ranking. In E tier is Umaguma. In D tier, it's More and A Saucer Full of Secrets. In C tier, it's The Final Cut. B tier, it's Endless River and Piper at the Gates of Dawn. In A tier, it's Atom Heart Mother, Momentary Lapse of Reason, The Division Bell, and Obscured by Clouds. And in S tier, the most of any band I've listened to so far, it's The Wall, Metal, Dark Side of the Moon, Animals, and my personal favourite, Wish You Were Here. In conclusion, I've had some possibly controversial opinions in this video, but this is all to go back to the point that Pink Floyd will always be my favourite band. The variety in their music, high quality after a certain point, powerful lyrics, and amazing orchestrations make for a band that stands through the test of time and deserves to be talked about more. If you haven't listened to Pink Floyd, you should give them a listen. Maybe start from the beginning, even though I didn't like More or Umaguma. You should still listen to them and experience some amazing soundscapes and powerful music. That's it. No ending joke. See, I can be positive about something for once.